We have the new a7R2, and we're going to be putting it up against the D810, the 5DS-R, and the a7 II for image quality. Then we're going to test this 4K video and put it up against the GH4 and the a7S.
We're also going to test out that stabilized sensor, see how much it really helps. And maybe most importantly, is the autofocusing finally good enough to replace our DSLRs? We'll test it with native Sony lenses and with adapted Canon lenses. First, let's see how that image quality is. At ISO 100, the a7R2's 42 megapixels didn't show visibly more detail than the D810. The a7R2's backlit sensor didn't show any benefit. The D810 had slightly better noise and dynamic range, showing a little less noise and recovered shadows. The D810 can also drop to a native ISO 64, where images showed significantly less noise in ideal conditions. At higher ISOs, the D810 continued to be basically indistinguishable from the a7R2. Any differences you see could be fixed with a little bit of processing.
Compared to the Canon 5DS-R, the Sony has slightly less noise and slightly better dynamic range. However, the Canon has slightly more detail. You can use noise reduction to trade that detail for lower noise. Overall, the result is the same as when we compared the 5DS-R to the D810. We find the Canon's images to be overall more usable, but the image quality differences aren't enough to solidly recommend one over the other.
Compared to the 24 megapixel a7 II, the 42 megapixel a7R2 showed far more detail. Total noise levels are similar, but the extra detail lets you raise noise reduction and trade some of that extra detail for a cleaner picture. At higher ISOs, the difference became more obvious, with the a7R2 looking much better than the entry-level a7 II.
So we just got in this adapter, the Metabones Mark IV adapter for Canon lenses to Sony bodies, and we noticed that it works far better than the other adapter that we were using.
Yeah, we'd been using this Omlight adapter, which was much less expensive and did allow autofocus, but apparently the adapter you get really does make a difference. Now with this adapter, the 7200 worked great. We didn't have to manually adjust it at all. The Sigma 24 to 105 worked great. The Canon 16 to 35 worked great. The Canon 100 to 400 mostly worked great until you got out to 300 or 400 millimeters, and then it became really unreliable. My big primes like the 400 and 500 just didn't work well at all. So the big telephoto lenses don't seem to be usable, at least not yet. Maybe a firmware update will fix it. And I'll say in low light, the 5DS-R still autofocus with these lenses way better than the Sony, but it's usable with that Metabones, it's usable.
The a7R2 did pretty well with both the native E-mount Sony 70-200 and the Canon 70-200 with the Metabones Mark IV adapter. With the adapter, it wasn't quite as fast or as consistent as a similarly priced DSLR, but when it worked really well.
Now let's see how much the steady shot inside the stabilized sensor helps you get sharp images when hand holding and using a prime lens. Using an unstabilized 85mm f1.4 prime, the a7R2 got 100% sharp at 1/30th of a second, 75% sharp at 1/10th, and 10% sharp at 1/4 of a second. The Canon and Nikon DSLRs didn't get a single sharp shot at those shutter speeds, making the a7R2 with a fast prime the best choice for people shooting handheld in low light.
Let's try the video at all of the ISOs.
GH4 versus a7S?
Let's do it. Boop, beep, boop, boop.
At ISO 1600 and below, we were happy with the $1,500 GH4. The articulating touchscreen and lighter weight still make it our favorite choice in good light. At ISO 6400, the GH4 becomes very noisy, but the a7S and both modes of the a7R2 are close enough that you probably won't notice. Note that I've graded these examples to make the color and contrast more similar. At ISO 25600, you can see that the a7R2's Super 35 mode is cleaner than the full frame mode, making it the better choice for low light. The a7S pulls ahead at ISO 51200 and above because it's the only camera that supports this ISO natively. Overall, in very low light, the a7S is the clear winner, with the a7R2's Super 35 mode behind one stop.
Overall, we love the a7R too. The stabilizing sensor is great. We got some amazing portraits with it. Adapting lenses, the Canon lenses worked pretty well.
That opens up a whole new world for Sony users.
The autofocusing system is far better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it still stumbled a little bit in low light. Outside of our testing, we found it kind of hunts, and sometimes it takes a long time to go from infinity to near focus. But overall, especially in the studio, it worked fantastically.
That having been said, I think we need more time with this camera. I'd like to use it in the real world. I'd like to experiment more with it, so there will be follow-up videos. We're going to take it to Machu Picchu in Peru and test it out, its landscape capabilities. We also need to do more testing on sports and wildlife because it seemed like it wouldn't be able to track really well, but I'd rather do those tests and be sure that that's right.
But so far, compared to a DSLR, lighter weight, Wi-Fi, all these fantastic benefits make me really want to spend more time with that camera.
If you're interested in seeing our follow-up videos, subscribe. We're also going to take you to Machu Picchu, so you might want to see that. And if you learned from us and you like our educational content, check out our book at northrop.photo. Thanks.
Thanks.
This is Tony and Chelsea shitting on your dreams.